His football IQ is extremely high, great detail. He's just a really sharp coach, and excited that he's on our staff.
Brian Johnson, you guys also made it official now. You have Brian Johnson. What made you feel comfortable to elevate him from quarterback's coach to offensive coordinator?
Shoot, with Brian, I'm in there with him every single day, and seeing him work every single day, right? Seeing him with the quarterback. With the quarterbacks, seeing him in game planning meetings, seeing him on the practice field, and so, I thought that was the natural progression for us to go that route, and his relationship with Jalen, and just Brian's a sharp dude. He is really I lean on him for so many different things, and now he's in charge of running the offense.
Except the scheme that Sean will bring to Philadelphia.
Yeah, one thing that we definitely have now is what we had our first year going into it. We have a little bit of unknown. Now, whoever we play first game can go and watch some of Sean's stuff. How's it going? Yeah, we can go watch some of Sean's stuff and from Chicago, or even some of the things from Seattle. But one thing that we have is some uncertainty again going into that first game. So where you hide some things in preseason football, and so not give everything away. But what I did like is some of the similarities to the things that we do that we've already been doing here on a very successful defense. And so with different coverages, different run blitzes, things like that.
What do you know about Brian?
With that hire, how do you navigate the staff dynamics for guys who did not get that job?
Sure, yeah. Again, my job was to go through the process and just like we do with everything, cast a wide net and get to know different people and get to talk to different people and get to see who's ready for the job. And I think we interviewed a really good group of guys, and was really impressed by all of them, actually. And just at the end of the day, obviously, some experience that Sean's had calling it, but also, I got to do what I feel is best for the team, and I felt like Sean was the best guy for the job.
What do you know about Brian from a play calling perspective?
Obviously, and you go through it. He taking us through and getting us to, our first 15 that he helps with, the third down order that he helped with, the red zone order they helped with, the 2-minute calls that he helped with. You do all that work. And you adjust during the game, obviously, but you do all that work Monday through Saturday to get yourself ready for the game. Put yourself in every position you possibly can. 2-minute scenarios, right? You put yourself in as many positions as you possibly can, so you don't flinch when it comes. You're practicing, just like you practice, right? You practice to make sure that you're ready to roll in the game. It's the same thing with calling plays, and so he's been in that process. And Brian's had some experience calling it at the college level as well, but. As you talk on the headset, hey, they're doing this, we should look to do that. I mean, Brian was doing that all the time last year, right? It just when we're talking on the headset, trying to figure out the next series of plays and how we need to adjust. So. Again, he's done some of it in the past as a coordinator in college, and then just the amount of things that we do together as an offensive staff, and all the things that Brian was involved in every one of those meetings to put it together, and that's where a big chunk of it of how you call the game goes.
Nick, with all the free agents you have, how much input do you have? Obviously, in working with Howie and the money people on who can stay and go, and how much is that weight held?
Yeah, We talk about everything, right? We talk about everything: the draft, the draft, the free agents, our team. I mean, we're in constant communication. The best organizations are in constant communication with the head coach and the GM. And again, at the end of the day, just like I just talked about with the coaches, at the end of the day, I had to make the best decision I felt was for the team. At the end of the day, Howie's got to make the best decision that he feels like is best for the team. But that doesn't mean you're not in constant communication, talking through everything. And so. And that's just what we do. I mean, I'm in his office pretty much all day at this time of the year, watching players with him, talking about players with him, talking about our team, whatever it is, and we spend a lot of time together at this time.
Did you interview other candidates for the offensive coordinator position?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Any external, or were they all
Yeah, we had an external coach in Nate. I don't want to mispronounce his last name, from Iowa State, offensive coordinator at Iowa State, really sharp young coach. Man, you guys know my connection to Iowa State and Matt Campbell and him. And we were really impressed with him and his interview, and and he's a great football coach.
Nick, how well did you know Glenn Sheehan through this process?
Just got to know him through this process. Again, I don't look at it like here's who I know and here's what I'm gonna do. Right? I didn't know Brian Johnson before we hired him. Right? I didn't know Jamal Singleton before we hired him. There's a lot of guys I didn't know before. I didn't know Nick Rollis before we hired him. I didn't know Jeremiah Washburn before we hired him. Like, there's a lot of that happens. All I'm looking for is the best guys for the job. Again, and you gotta balance different things. Every coach can't be the same, right? I think there's a tendency to say, I'm going to get this coach that he's like me a little bit, right? And you don't want a bunch of the same guys running around. But every coach needs to be very detailed in what they do, and so that's always the common denominator that I'm looking for. But we're not afraid to cast a wide net, to go. I know how many good coaches are in college. I can't. I think if you ask some of the Philly media, they'll tell you that I talk about Frank Reich, I talk about Larry Karras, my college coach, and I talk about one of my high school coaches, my dad, and that's where I learned all my stuff from. So I know how many good coaches are out there at the college level, and so whether we know them, whether we don't know them, whether we know them through somebody, or we're going to cast a wide net to try to do what's best for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Going to be your quarterback's coach, and can you talk about Alex?
Sorry, I don't want to get somebody else. Yeah, we'll obviously go through that with as we continue on, and does the staff dynamic fit? Does Sean have anybody? But Denard's a great football coach. He's done an outstanding job, if he's still our defensive backs coach, we'll be lucky to have him, because we know how good of a coach he is. But we're not to that process yet. I mean, we just kind of finalized that Sean will be our defensive coordinator, so we're not there yet. But I think the world of Denard and how good of a football coach he is.
What are some of the traits and characteristics in Shane Steichen that you think set him up to be a head coach, and what advice do you have for him making the kind of similar transition from coordinator to head coach?
Yeah, all my advice, everything that I've had so many conversations with Shane. What Frank Reich did for me was pull me aside, what felt like once or twice a week, and said, hey, when you're a head coach, be ready for this or be ready for that. And I was very appreciative of that, to a point where I, tried to do the same thing with Shane and Jonathan and Brian and just all the guys that we have on our staff. And so, obviously I've shared the information that I have. I didn't keep any secrets from Shane. I wanted him to be the best possible offensive coordinator he could possibly be, and obviously he crushed it, which turned into him getting the head job for the Colts. And I love him, and he's awesome, good friend of mine, and obviously a very good coach. And so I didn't keep anything from him. I gave him everything I had as far as the things that I knew would help him with the job that he's had. And like I said, it wasn't like, hey, right before he got it or right after, Chris Ballard said that Shane was the head coach, I started writing a bunch of things down to give him. We've had so many conversations there. But what was the second part of your question?
Just what sets him up to be a head coach?
Yeah, I think first of all, you get the job because you excel at what he was doing, right? So he's awesome offensive mind, and so he excelled at that. Our offense played really well with Shane leading it, and he just was awesome. Calling the game. I think he's really special at calling the game. And that's why I gave up play calling duties. One was to make sure I was managing the game as a head coach, but also because of how much trust I had with Shane. Just relationships with players, accountability. Shane's he's a 10 in a lot of areas, and I think Indy got a special coach. Nice hat. Yeah.
How important is Coach Jamestown's roots as you still evolve as a coach?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
How important is those Jamestown roots?
Oh, you're talking about Jamestown.
Yeah,
okay.
How important is those Jamestown roots?
Yeah.
Still evolve?
Again, my biggest mentor as a coach is my dad, and then I also have my brother who gives me a lot of, those are my mentors too. And so, they're still in the area. My dad's still coaching pole vaulters for Southwestern High School. For my brother, who's still the track coach, I know my brother's not the football coach anymore, but I still am able to bounce things off of them. And I know, and so I'm still, one of my really good friends is the head football coach at Jamestown High School. He actually was at the Super Bowl. I had him at the Super Bowl just because we had dreamed about playing and coaching in the Super Bowl for as long as I can remember. So I still have a bunch of conversations with with those guys about football, and you're constantly trying to grow in everything you do. I don't, I'm sharing information with, Tommy Langworthy, who's the Jamestown head coach, and he's sharing information back. I'll take good information from anywhere, and and then I pull for. I like to read the newspaper back home, and articles Scott Kingberg writes that he writes back home and about the local athletes there. And I know they got Jamestown High School's got a player going to North Dakota State as a quarterback, and so I like to follow the sports, and so I just got a lot of connections, and I owe a lot of things to Western New York.
Nick, when deciding to promote Brian Johnson to offensive coordinator, was there an emphasis on maintaining stability for Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I mean, what you're going to see with our offense is you're not going to see a lot of change. We're going to, because myself, Shane, right? I mean, Brian, like we do it all together, right? And obviously Shane will be gone. There'll be little differences and little different ways that the game's called, but the way the offense is run with everything is going to be exactly the same. The way our guys run routes are going to be the same. The way we block inside zones is going to be the same, for different looks that we get. The way we do our snap count, like you're not starting, you're just continuing to build, right? There is no Shane leaves, you do this, and then you do this again. You just keep doing this because at the end of the day, like I was hired as an offensive coach to bring the offense that I have run in and that, and my expertise in that. So I'll continue to do that. It's just going to be a different guy calling the plays, but it's still business as usual. And we'll miss Shane. Shane's an awesome coach, as we just talked about. But I know how many good people we have in that building. Jeff Stoutland, Kevin Patullo, right? Jamal Singleton, Jason Michael, Aaron Moorhead, Alex Tanny, right? TJ Pagnetti, Roy. We have so many. See, and I said Roy because I don't know how to pronounce his last name either. I've worked with him for 2 years, so we just have so many good people there. Eric Dickerson, I don't want to forget anybody, but working with that offense that are still in place. That was important to keep good people there, because there's no doubt Shane wanted to take some guys there, but they're Philadelphia Eagles and they're Philadelphia Eagle coaches, and my job is to keep good coaches in the building, because that's who touches the players every single day and help them get better. And when you have good guys, you don't want to. When you have to start over, you start over. But when you have good guys there, you want to keep going and keep working and to keep things similar.
How do you kind of view a guy like Javon Hargrave, who's a versatile D lineman that can rush from various alignments, and how valuable that is? And then how do you deal with kind of the uncertainty of a guy like that as he goes to test the market? Yeah,
he's awesome. He's awesome. And he's been a big part of this team for the past 3 years. I've only been here for 2, but man, he is a big time player, and obviously you want all your guys back, right? You want all your guys back because you just went through a super special journey together, right? The journey is what you'll always remember, right? And I know that loss will stick with us, but there was a lot of good moments in that journey, and Javon, and just being around him every day at practice. He's just an awesome guy to be around, and so he's a great teammate, and he's quiet, and he's a quiet leader, but he's a great teammate. He's a great person. He's a great player, and so you want to try to get as many guys back as you can, but knowing that that's not always possible. Again, how he's got to do what he feels is best for the team. I have my input, just like we talked about, and we'll see what happens. But I love Javon Hargrave. Get their rebounds, and then if you got a chance to put it in, you got to take advantage of that opportunity to put that thing in. But we're going to design plays to run through boom, 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 right? And that's what we're talking about with roles. And so I think it's easy to look at the stats and say, hey, his numbers were way lower. They were, but he didn't have as many opportunities because of the other guys that we had on the team and how much faith we had in him. But we do have faith in in Zach, and we do have faith in Quez that they'll make plays, when their number's called. It's just that it's called a little less.
Last one.
I'll get you. Sorry, I do it to Bob all the time. Bob says last one, and then I look like the good guy when I said, no, I'll get you too. Alex Tanny? Yeah, really sharp. What was really interesting of when we brought Alex in, almost everybody on our staff had coached him, right? So I was with him in Kansas City in 2012. Shane was with him in Cleveland in 2013. Jason and Kevin were with him in 2014 with Tennessee, right? And so, maybe he threw passes to Aaron. I don't know. He's just been everywhere. And so, but what struck us was that, how smart he was and how hard he worked to stay on the team as a number 3 and number 2 quarterback. And so even when we were in Kansas City, I still remember